Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
A great pleasure to welcome to the program Bernie Wanden, Mayor of the Horowhenua. Good morning, Bernie.
Good morning, John.
Lovely to talk to you. I have to report that we had a lovely conversation with Pam Good yesterday, who was pleased as punch with her civic honours. It's a great idea, this, to honour the people who are actually keeping the community together, cohesive and moving forward.
Oh, look, I think it's fantastic recognition for some of those people. A lot of them do a fantastic job in the background and very rarely get acknowledged for the contribution they make. So it's really nice that the community can acknowledge them in this way. And I think that was one of the things that stood out about this year's recipients, that they were all just good, fantastic people who do a huge amount.
Yes, indeed, and good on you for the civic honours. I think it's a great idea. Also, the taste trail seemed to go off pretty well. What was your perspective?
Look, it was the first time that I've ever been able to enjoy
really
like that. Yes, I've generally been working, of course. But look, it was a fantastic experience for me to see the level of the standard of those producers, what they're doing in our community, the jobs they're providing, the fantastic food and produce that they are getting out. And look, people just seem to be in a great mood, fantastic weather. It was just a brilliant day.
It seems to me, I mean, it's called the Taste Trail, but frankly, it's a matter of enterprises, of businesses, of mom-and-pop operations getting bigger all the time, and of local success. That's really what it's about, isn't it?
For sure. And we do have some quite large companies, Turks and Woodhaven are...
Oh, yes, well established.
But then you get down to the little guys like the Ultimate Egg Company and the little hydroponic lettuce company. I mean, those sorts of things are fantastically, what they do too.
Makes you feel good. Bernie, you may have heard we've just had an election. Is this a busy time of year for you, the councillors, and also the officers?
Incredibly busy for me. Following the election, I don't think my feet have touched the ground yet.
Yes.
But look, that's all good. I'm enjoying certainly the interaction with the community and the public and all the different events that I'm going to. But look, in behind the scenes, there's a fantastic amount of work being done in terms of, one, preparing for the annual plan and then following that, the long-term plan. But also trying to understand what our priorities are in terms of the next 12 months, 18 months is a big job. We have a huge challenge with the amount of growth that we're experiencing at the moment, and we need to make sure that we're dealing with that appropriately.
Bernie, do you look enviously at Auckland that seems to put its hand out to ask the government for infrastructure help? Because, of course, they do have a few people moving into Auckland as well. But it seems to me that north of the Bombay Hills, they are more brazen about seeking central government help in the kinds of areas that you struggle in as well.
Look, for sure, but Auckland's a prime example of not having dealt with the growth that they experienced probably 5 to 10 years ago that well. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. And look, we need to make sure that we deal with it properly. In terms of getting the support from local central government, look, I agree. We are often at the bottom of the pile when it comes to that sort of handout. But we, just have to get on with the job and make things the best we can, making sure that we are telling central government of the success and the challenges around our growth and how they can help that. And I think that is coming across reasonably well. There's definitely been progress with the expressway, and look, I think there's a bit of a change of environment around this part of the district, and our connections with Wellington hopefully will grow and be encouraged over the next 3 years.
This is a big part of your job, isn't it? The kind of advocacy behind closed doors that most people don't know about.
For sure. And look, we know that we've been probably a little bit neglected over the last few years, and we do have to change that. We need to make sure that we are telling our story better, and with the help of the operations team and the management, with myself, look, I'm sure we can get on and do that.
That's good stuff. Really bad stuff. We heard overnight that the 90-year-old lady who was assaulted on the 2nd of November has died, and I know that you knew her. I knew her very slightly. What sort of an effect has this had on the town, Bernie?
Look, I think it's inappropriate for me to comment on that at the moment, John. Look, my thoughts and sympathies with the family at this time. They're dealing with the tragic result of this incident, and I'd rather let them grieve and cope with what they're having to deal with rather than make any comments around the public side of things.
Well, let's talk then about Phil Tauiki, who apparently is locking off Lake Horowhenua. And this has been a running sore for years in the town, hasn't it, Bernie? We've got an issue there. I remember when I set up the first radio station in Levin 30 years ago. I turned up to a meeting of the Horowhenua Lake Domain Board, and there was a guy from the government, I imagine from DOC, I'm not quite sure, and we were there for an hour before anyone else turned up. And at least one of the major participants in that committee didn't turn up at all. I thought this is completely dysfunctional. And in fact, you've got to say that the whole operation seems to have been dysfunctional for decades now.
That's true. Look, I mean, there are some relationship issues and sort of perceptions of things that have gone on in the past that have not been resolved. And until we get over those sorts of and can try and resolve those issues, draw a line in the sand and so that we can move on and try and find some solutions, unfortunately, I can't see a way forward. And look, it's unfortunate that Phil has done this. It is impacting on the local community in terms of the dog park and just the land around the lake. But I'm not sure what his motives are for doing it and what he hopes to gain from it. That's his prerogative, but obviously, it's not great.
The lake is privately owned, is that correct or not?
The lake is privately owned. Yes,
and Phil is one of the owners along with some 1,500 others, as I understand. So could you make the case that he's simply enforcing his private ownership rights and he doesn't want any trespassing? I mean, is that a reasonable argument?
Well, in his light, I'm sure it is, but he does actually own the lake, so all that land that surrounds the lake as well is basically public land, so he is preventing the community from using that. Look, I'm not sure, I can't speculate on what his motives are and what he hopes to gain from this, but I'm sure there are people in the background trying to resolve the matter.
And is the Horowhenua District Council a party to those discussions?
Look, I know there's some meetings early next week, and hopefully we will be able to offer some assistance or facilitate some sort of, talk if we can. But, we're part of, we're just one of the stakeholders down there. There are lots of others, and we need to try and get everyone around and talking and try to find a way forward, definitely.
Well, that's the way to do it, isn't it? Getting everyone around a table and seeing if we can come up with a common agreement, or at least a common set of facts that we can agree on, because often people seem to be dealing in different universes on occasions, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do. Interpretation of history as well, and different things that have happened over the years. I mean, they all contribute to different opinions and stances that, hard to get past sometimes.
Indeed, and we do want to move forward. Bernie, thank you very much for joining us. Much appreciated. Perhaps we can do it again sometime.
Cheers, John.
All the best. There we are. Bernie Wanden.
106.3 Beach FM.